Oh, the famous Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Now, this chapter you are probably familiar with, especially if you were born uh, before 1980, maybe 1990, probably. If you're born in the Generation X or baby boomers or other generations that are older, you probably are very familiar with this chapter. You might say, but I don't remember reading Ecclesiastes. That's because this chapter was turned into a very famous song, which I believe came out in the 70s, early 70s. I think so. I could be wrong on that. But let's get into this, and I think you're going to see what I'm talking about with this. So, verse 1, to everything there is a season. Now, those of you who know, you probably already caught on to where this is going. And a time to every purpose under the heaven. Verse 2, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. You see where this is happening? You're probably starting to hear that for every season. Turn, turn, turn. That is the song that was they used the lyrics from Ecclesiastes chapter 3 to create that song, Turn, 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 dealing with seasons and seasonality and how things there's patterns, structural patterns that everything follows. And everything follows these patterns, and there's a time for things to happen. So there's sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's not appropriate. So let's see, verse 5. A time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away. So you see how they're doing opposites as we go through this? A time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What profit hath he that worketh in that wherein he laboreth? So this is the question. So there's timing to things. Sometimes we should speak, sometimes we should not speak. Sometimes it's time to work, sometimes it's not time to work. There's patterns, there's cycles that happen, seasons that happen with things. And that's just important for us to realize. That's how life works, basically. So verse 10, I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. Or this is the occupation or task. God has work for us to do. Verse 11, he hath made everything beautiful in his time. Also he has set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to the end. I know that there is no good in them, but for a man to rejoice and to do good in his life. So the man doesn't have good inherently by himself, but as he works on being good, that improves his value and helps him. Verse 13, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. So I like that he's getting here, realize that the fact that you have the ability to work, the fact that you have the ability to make choices, you have a time to work, you have a time to rest. This pattern, this cycle is what makes life good. This is what God has given us, this gift of opportunities to make choices, of opportunities to have contrarian ideas or things happening to allow us to have agency. Verse 14, I know that whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it, nor anything taken from it, and God doeth it, that men should fear before him. That which hath been is now, and that which is to be hath already been, and God requireth that which is past. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. I said in my heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and every work. So he says, it's interesting, don't you think? When we get to the day of judgment, we're standing before God, righteous and wicked will be there. both will be represented. Basically, there'll be those attributes. Some people will be righteous, some people will be wicked, but we will all be there in front of God. Verse 18, I said in mine heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, that God might manifest them, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. So he's like, this is the reality, guys. You're just mortal. You're just beasts of burden. You work. Your job in whole life is to be born, and you learn, and then you work, and then you die, basically. Not the most positive perspective to take, but that's what he's taking here. Verse 19, for that which befalleth the sons of men befalleth beasts, even the one thing befalleth them. As the one dieth, so dieth the other, yet they all have one breath, so that a man hath no preeminence above a beast, for all is vanity. So again, we shouldn't make ourselves sound greater or better than everybody else. We die just as easy as an animal does. We breathe the same air as animals do. So we're not that much different. Verse 20, all go unto one place, all are of the dust, and all turn to dust again. We all go to the spirit world after this life, and our bodies all decay and die the same. Why should we see ourselves that much different than the beasts? Now verse 21, who knoweth the spirit of man that goeth upward, and the spirit of the beast that goeth downward to the earth? Wherefore I perceive that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his portion. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him? So realize, he's like, the best thing to do is have something to do, have good labor, be a contributor. That's what's important. How can you help more people? That brings joy and happiness to your life. And that's what he's saying is what you should focus on, basically. Now let's jump over to chapter 4 as we continue with this wisdom.